Making headlines. The Attorney General stresses the nation's vulnerability to the slow onset impacts of climate change. The Ministry of Finance reports that the state has utilized $597 million thus far this year for the PSIP. And the Minister of Education attends the GPE Board of Directors meeting.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to PSM News in English with me, Hafiz Abdul Sattar. And now the news in detail. Attorney General Ahmad Usham stresses the nation's vulnerability to the slow onset impacts of climate change, while reiterating Maldives' firm opposition to forced relocation is a response to these environmental challenges. Usham presented these remarks during oral submissions in the advisory proceedings entitled Obligations of States in Respect of Climate Change at the International Court of Justice, ICJ. The United Nations General Assembly, during its 77th session, adopted a resolution titled Request for an Advisory Opinion of the International Court of Justice on the Obligations of States in Respect of Climate Change. This resolution formally requested the ICJ to provide an advisory opinion in accordance with Article 65 of the Statutes of Court. During these proceedings, states and international organizations were invited to participate in public hearings and present oral submissions. Representing the Maldives government at the ICJ, Attorney General Usham underscored the pivotal leadership of President Dr. Mohamed Muiz in advocating for climate change action and called upon the international community to support nations vulnerable to climate impacts such as the Maldives. Usham's comments on the Maldives' susceptibility to climate change and opposition to forced relocation are particularly significant in light of the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami, which necessitated the relocation of many residents to other islands. Those affected were initially provided with temporary shelter, followed by permanent housing solutions facilitated by the state. The Maldives representation at the ICJ hearing also included international legal experts who elaborated on the mandatory obligations established under the climate treaty regime. These experts highlighted the necessity for support to developing states and the duty to cooperate under customary international law, according to a statement from the Attorney General's office. The AG office reiterated that the Maldives stands resolute in its dedication to collaborating with the global community to address the climate crisis. Ministry of Finance reports that the state has utilized $597 million thus far this year for the Public Sector Investment Program, PSIP.
The Ministry of Finance reported that the state utilized $597 million thus far this year for PSIP projects. The PSIP is a medium-term plan that includes key development projects the government prioritizes to establish infrastructure. In the 2024 budget approved by the Parliament, $577.3 million was allocated for PSIP projects. An additional $129.9 million has been earmarked from the $330.6 million supplementary budget approved in October, bringing the total allocation for PSIP this year to $707.4 million. The latest weekly fiscal report published by the Finance Ministry indicates that as of 18th November, $597.5 million has been utilized from the budget for PSIP, including road development, land reclamation, and transport-related projects. The PSIP budget expenditure includes $149.3 million for airport development, $129.9 million for land reclamation, $64.5 million for bridge projects, $45.3 million for housing projects, $3.7 million for road development projects, and $21.87 million for harbor projects. While a total budget of $3.67 billion has been approved for the upcoming year, a significant portion, amounting $800 million, has been earmarked specifically for PSIP. The government has committed to taking special measures to ensure that the PSIP projects are implemented effectively. In this regard, a proprietary fund will be established and newly launched projects will follow specific policies.
Minister of Education Dr. Ismail Shafiu attends the Global Partnership for Education GPE Board of Directors meeting held in Dubai. GPE is one of the largest international funding bodies providing grants to developing countries to strengthen their educational sectors. The Maldives became a GPE member in 2019. The minister attended the board meeting in the capacity of the board member representing the Asia and Pacific region. He was accompanied by the Minister of State for Education, Dr. Ahmad Muhammad. During the meeting, discussions centered around GPE's operations and future plans. The meeting also discussed GPE's budget for the next 3 years. The GPE has significantly assisted the Maldives in developing its education sector. Presently, the Ministry of Education is implementing the Toiba project, funded with $9.5 million assistance from GPE. This project aims to bring about revolutionary reforms to the country's education sector. Ministry of Health warns that authorities will take punitive actions against cafes and restaurants that allow smoking in non-smoking areas.
The Ministry of Health has warned that authorities will take actions against cafes and restaurants that allow smoking in non-smoking areas as part of its efforts to enforce the Tobacco Control Act enacted in 2010. At a press conference held to inform the media about the ministry's efforts, Minister of Health Abdullah Nazim Ibrahim stated that punitive action will be taken against cafes and restaurants which violate the law. This includes terminating the permits and business licenses issued to the cafes and restaurants. The Tobacco Control Act designates areas in cafes and restaurants as smoking areas, which should be clearly marked with no smoking messages. Smoking in other areas is prohibited under the law. Violators of the smoking ban in public spaces would face a fine of approximately $34. Authorities have expressed concern regarding the lack of proper enforcement of these agencies. Minister Nazim emphasized that the enforcement of the Tobacco Control Act can only be achieved with the support and joint action of other related agencies. Meanwhile, Deputy Director of the Health Protection Agency, HPA, Hassan Muhammad, also acknowledged the challenges to enforcing the smoking ban in designated areas of cafes and restaurants and other public spaces. Citing that amendments have been made to the law to mandate owners of cafes and restaurants to ensure smoking bans are followed, the Deputy Director warned that punitive action will be taken against owners of cafes and restaurants who fail to follow the law. As part of the recent amendment to the Tobacco Control Act, the import of vapes and vaping products is also banned. The sale and use of vapes and vaping products will be banned from 15 December. The law also bans the sale of tobacco products to those below the age of 21.
Maldives invites foreign investors to apply for investment licenses mandated by the recently ratified new foreign investment law. The new law, which came into force from December 3rd, mandates foreign investors to acquire a special foreign investment license through the Ministry of Economic Development and Trade. The law, ratified by the President Dr. Mohamed Muiz in September, outlines the procedures to be followed to acquire foreign investment approval. It outlines provisions for identifying investment opportunities in the island nation, including provisions on investor protection and safety measures, investor responsibilities and details, the terms and compensation, and other related provisions. In addition, the bill lays down special circumstances under which the investment can be withdrawn by the state and actions that would constitute violations of the law. It also states the new law would take precedence over any foreign investment provisions laid down in any other law other than the Special Economic Zone Act. This is the first time Maldives has amended the foreign investment laws in nearly half a century. The old foreign investment law, which was passed in 1979, has been repealed after the new law came into effect. The national healthcare insurance provider, Asanda, has announced that authorities are currently working on upgrading the Asanda portal to curb excessive spending on the universal healthcare insurance scheme.
Asanda announced that authorities are currently working on upgrading the Asanda portal to curb excessive spending. While a specific amount is allocated in the national budget for Asanda coverage, in recent years, this limit has exceeded, forcing the government to seek additional funds to cover the rising costs. According to official figures, the state currently spends over $194.5 million every year on Asanda coverage. The administration, in collaboration with Asanda, is actively working to reduce excessive healthcare expenditure. Manager of the Medical Investigation Section of Asanda, Mariam Fiaza, explained that as part of these efforts, the company is currently upgrading its online portal. Fiaza also stated that pharmacies will be flagged under the new changes if a customer repeatedly takes the same medications from the pharmacies. She said that the new changes will also introduce a dispense code which will identify the customer to whom the medication has been dispensed, adding that pharmacies will not be permitted to dispense medication without the proper dispense code. Fiaza stated that this will address the issue of patients sending others to collect medication from pharmacies. She also underscored the importance of individual responsibilities in supporting the government's Asanda cost reduction efforts. Furthermore, Fiaza advised patients to inform Asanda if they receive transaction notifications without having consulted a doctor or if they have requested a consultation but did not see the doctor. She noted that under the new changes to the Asanda portal, the company will send notifications to patients if an appointment transaction has been cancelled. She also reiterated the importance of taking medical records and results of medical tests when going in for medical consultations, highlighting that this would stop the issues caused by repetitive tests and repetitive prescriptions of the same medication.
Asanda Company Limited, the national health insurance provider, assures that it will continue to cover medications previously included in the health insurance scheme. The assurance follows public concerns over the lack of coverage for certain medicines that were previously insured.
Asanda, in a statement, reassured the public that all medicines previously covered will remain insured. The company also stated that a list of covered medications can be accessed on its website. The company also insisted that there will be no extra charges for medicines imported to the Maldives through bulk procurement this year. Asanda further clarified that any medicines not covered by the insurance scheme will be clearly marked as not covered on the medical prescription. It urged the public to report pharmacies charging for prescription medicine that is covered under the insurance scheme. Significant reforms are being introduced to the National Health Insurance Scheme to improve services and ensure sustainability. As part of these reform efforts, price adjustments have been made for 250 high-cost medicines. The government is also taking measures to reduce wastage within the system. Asanda's annual expenditure amounts to approximately $194.6 million, with the majority of costs associated with purchasing medications. To address this, efforts are underway to import high-quality medicine through bulk procurement.
Managing Director of Fenaka Corporation Limited, Muaz Muhammad Rashid, expresses confidence in the repayments of all debts of the corporation by the year 2027, provided the necessary concessions are granted.
Fenaka revealed that when the new management took over, the corporation's debt stood at $279 million. As a result, Fenaka has faced substantial debt repayment costs, contributing to its deteriorating financial situation. The current administration is actively working to resolve these financial challenges. Speaking to PSM News, Managing Director Muaz criticized the previous management for hiring more staff than necessary, taking out high-interest loans and accumulating outstanding bills related to fuel. He emphasized that such poor decisions have led to the corporation's excessive expenditure. While Fenaka generates approximately $13.8 million in revenue each month, it also faces additional monthly costs of about $5.51 million. Moaz also pointed out that Fenaka's financial difficulties cannot be overcome solely through its existing revenue. Highlighting that although sewerage services are provided free of charge to residents, the operational costs for these services are high. Moaz stressed the need for government subsidies to address this issue. Additionally, Moaz revealed that support from the Ministry of Finance is necessary to restructure two loans totaling $25.9 million, which were taken by the previous management from the Maldives Islamic Bank MIB. He also highlighted the critical need for regular payment from government agencies and various state-owned enterprises for services provided by Fenaka. Moaz expressed optimism that with the implementation of these concessions, Fenaka would be able to clear all outstanding debts by 2027.
The European Union and South America's Mercosur bloc struck an agreement on a free trade deal on Friday, which now, however, faces a total battle for approval in Europe.
The agreement between the EU and South America's Mercosur bloc was a long-delayed free trade deal. However, it now faces a battle for approval in Europe, where there is stiff opposition from France. After negotiations spanning over 20 years and 5 years on from an initial deal, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and her Mercosur counterparts announced that an agreement had been reached in the Uruguayan capital, Montevideo.
This agreement is a win for Europe. 60,000 companies are exporting today to Mercosur, 30,000 of them small and medium enterprises. They benefit from reduced tariffs, simpler custom procedures, and preferential access to some critical raw materials. This will create huge business opportunities.
Von der Leyen stated that EU is working to strengthen its partnership, noting that in doing so, they are sending a powerful message to the world.
We are strengthening this unique partnership as never before. And in doing so, we're sending a clear and a powerful message to the world. First, in an increasingly confrontational world, we demonstrate that democracies can rely on each other. This agreement is not just an economic opportunity, it is a political necessity.
Facing strong pushback against the deal from France and EU farmers, von der Leyen had flown in on Thursday ahead of the summit of the bloc, which includes farming powerhouses, Brazil and Argentina, as well as Uruguay and Paraguay. France, the most vociferous critic of the deal in the EU, has branded it as unacceptable. The trade agreement would require approval from 15 of the 27 EU members representing 65% of the EU population, along with a simple majority in the European Parliament.
Middle East expert says it is too early to say what the developments in Syria might be as rebels' offensive catches Syria government off guard.
A Chatham House Middle East expert stated that it is too early to say what the developments in Syria might be as rebels' offensive catches the Syrian government off guard.
It's too early to really say with certainty what will come next. For now, what we can say for sure is that their ability to capture Homs, where the fighting is currently taking place, will definitely get them closer to Damascus and make that possibility higher. However, for them to be able to do that and then get closer to Damascus, they will have to remain united, maintain their supply lines, as well as continue to attack regime forces from different areas.
Seizing Homs would cut off Syria's capital Damascus from the coast, a long-time redoubt of Assad's minority Alawite sect and where his Russian allies have a naval base and air base. After years locked behind frozen front lines, the insurgents have burst out of their northwestern Idlib bastion to achieve the swiftest battlefield advance by either side since a street uprising against Assad mushroomed into civil war 13 years ago. Assad regained control of most of Syria after his key allies, Russia, Iran and Lebanon's Hezbollah group, came to his support, but all have recently been weakened and diverted by other crises. The head of the Syrian faction told that his group, a former Al-Qaeda affiliate, now known as Hayat Tahrir al-Sham HTS, aimed to build Syria and bring Syrian refugees back home from Lebanon and Europe. A senior UN official said that up to 1.5 million people could be forced to flee any upsurge in fighting in Syria. The World Food Programme's Samer Abdel Jaber told that violence has already displaced 280,000 people since it erupted in late November.
Manchester City midfielder Kevin De Bruyne future at the club is still uncertain, with coach Pep Guardiola remaining coy on whether the Belgian will sign an extension to his expiring contract.
Manchester City midfielder De Bruyne's future at the club remains uncertain, with Guardiola coy on whether the Belgian will sign an extension to his expiring contract. The 33-year-old scored a goal and set up another as City won for the first time in 8 games on Wednesday in a 3-0 Premier League victory over Nottingham Forest. However, his contract expires next year, and British media reports have recently linked him with a move away from the Etihad. Guardiola will hope to have another strong performance from the midfielder when they travel to Crystal Palace in the league on Saturday. The biggest issue around De Bruyne is his fitness, as Wednesday marked his first start in more than 2 months due to an abdominal injury. Guardiola has other injuries to contend with, as he confirmed that Nathan Ake will miss Saturday's game. The Netherlands international has played 8 games in all competitions this season due to a hamstring injury and was helped off late in Wednesday's win with a fresh concern. The manager was also waiting on the fitness of fellow defender Manuel Akanji, who came off at half-time against Forest. Phil Foden will also miss his second successive game with bronchitis. City's poor form has seen the champions tumble down to 4th in the Premier League standings, 9 points behind leaders Liverpool and 2 behind Chelsea and Arsenal. One of the positives to come out of Wednesday's win was the performance of Jack Grealish in a central midfield role. He recorded a pass accuracy rate of 98% on the night City play 6 more games in all competitions this month. After Palace, they head to Italy to play Juventus as their Champions League campaign continues on Wednesday.
This year's Nobel Prize laureates donates a teacup and a paper hat to the Nobel Prize Museum as artifacts.
A teacup and paper hat were among the artifacts donated to the Nobel Prize Museum by this year's Nobel Prize laureates. As the laureates gather in Stockholm ahead of Tuesday's glitzy royal ceremony, one of the traditional agenda points is to donate an artifact that has meant something special to them to the Nobel Prize Museum. The items were donated to the museum by the laureates themselves earlier on Friday, when they also signed a chair for the museum's bistro. South Korean author and Nobel Literature Prize winner Han Kang donated her teacup to the museum. These objects are meant to bring to life the stories of the laureates for the museum's visitors.
This is the item we got donated from Han Kang, this year's Nobel Prize laureate in literature. And she donated this cup together with the notes, and this is the process of her writing for her latest book. And there were 3 steps. Number 1 was to wake up at 5:30 every morning. She did not always succeed. Number 2 was to always take a walk. And number 3 was to drink a cup of tea from this teacup. And then afterward, she looked into the swirl of this cup, and that became her universe while writing.
The medicine, physics, chemistry, literature, and economic sciences prizes are awarded in Stockholm, while the Nobel Peace Prize are awarded in Oslo. Throughout the week, the laureates will take part in activities ranging from panel discussions to press conferences, finding time to visit schools and give lectures and attend a lights show.
And that's all we have for this hour. Thank you for watching. Wish you all a very pleasant time ahead.
අලුන් වෙන්න කි අලුන් වෙන්න නුවාණ කම වෙච්ච කම ගවඤ්ඤාම එම්මෙ ෆුර්තම එක නුවාණ බුණාණ මීහු
ඒකේ රොඟරොඟ අලුමෙන්